What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets, and break down some important things that Jerome Powell said that's driving the market so far, and how this may affect us going into tomorrow. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with this market. Looking at Tesla, we've been making these lower highs at least so far, but it's trying to make a rebound move right here alongside the whole market. The whole market saw a very, very big bounce after Jerome Powell announced some important things. So the question is, will Tesla continue to push and try to break these highs, or is Tesla about to see a big rejection? I'll give you guys some insights about this based off our levels, and I'm going to talk about why the market is looking a bit more bullish in my personal opinion. But let's first talk about the market and what's happening with FOMC. The first thing that happened was, just to start from the very beginning, the market was actually very flat in the morning. It tried to push a bit, came back down. We were kind of in the red and we were just kind of trading sideways in the very beginning. Then we got some big announcements that are very important. The Fed has announced that they're going to be keeping interest rates at the same as before. They're not going to be increasing them or decreasing them. They're keeping them the same amidst the uncertainty associated with the tariffs. And then as a result of that, we also had some more data coming out from their economic projections. For 1 year out, we're expecting them to basically cut rates to 3.4%. Before it was, expected to be at 3.9%. Now they're saying 3.4% is what they're expecting. 2 years out, they were expecting 3.4%. Now they're saying 3.1%. In other words, we're going to be seeing more cuts than previously expected for the next 1 to 2 years. The current rate's about the same, and then the longer term is showing about 3%. So, in essence, with the better than expected inflationary numbers that came out previously, and the fact that there's been a lot of progress in Jerome Powell's eyes, the market is, a little bit more optimistic about this, that there could be more cuts than previously expected for 1 to 2 years out. That's why the market started to see a push. You saw Tesla kind of pop a bit. So did SPY and the QQQ. The market pushed when this data came out. And then what happened was we ended up just consolidating as Jerome Powell was about to start speaking. Then Jerome Powell caused the market to launch. And we saw Tesla, SPY, the QQQ, Nvda, and the rest of the market just close in the green. So what did Jerome Powell say? Let's focus on that now. Then I'll break down these charts. So Jerome Powell, the big guy, said some important things. I have his transcript right here, so I'm going to read some of his quotes. He mentioned that the Fed made the technical decision to slow the pace of decline in their balance sheets, and they made the decision to keep rates the same. It remains seen how uncertain things are going to be with their outlooks, and they're going to continue to be very, very patient. So that's what Jerome Powell said. Then he mentioned that for the longer term, inflationary expectations are consistent with their 2% goal. But for the short term inflationary expectations have gone up because of tariffs acting as a driving factor. Then Jerome Powell said, we do not have to be in a hurry. We're in a well-positioned place to wait for better clarity. So he said that very, very quickly. He said that if the labor market weakens, we could ease if necessary. So it did imply that could be happening. And then moving forward, he just said the same things over and over again. Goods inflation went up. They are on track to do that because of tariff increases, but there's not really as much clarity, and they have to wait and see how that goes. Then he just said the same thing over again. They're going to wait and see what happens with the data over and over again. There may be a slight delay in inflationary progress this year. He did mention that, but for the long term, they're going to be completely fine. They've had pretty solid economic data, and the labor market remains strong. Then he continued to say the same things over and over again. They have to wait and see what the data tells us. Excuse me, they can't say things without evidence. So the Fed needs there to be evidence for them to make claims about inflation and such. That's why they have to be very, very patient. And it's the same thing over and over again. He did mention that tariffs can bring growth down and inflation up. However, they don't know the exact extent in which tariffs will affect things until they see the data. And we can't really kind of like distinguish that, at least just yet. Besides that, I'm looking at his quotes. It's all the same stuff over and over again. So he is still remaining optimistic, but he is giving us warnings about how the Fed is going to be prepared to take necessary action. So the Fed, they do not want to cut too fast. They don't want to keep rates too high for too long either. They have to wait and see what the data tells us. He was very, very uncertain about that. He did address the possibility of inflation going up because of tariffs, but he said that tariffs alone are not going to be the direct effect. It's how tariffs end up causing inflation to change, which we can't truly distinguish quite yet. So he's saying the same thing over and over again, essentially. And the main quote was that there's a lot of uncertainty about the economic outlooks. So what does this all mean for the stock market, right? Jerome Powell was saying these things over and over again. But what's good is the fact that, okay, actually, let's start with the bad. The bad news is that when you look at the Fed's projections, and Jerome Powell did address this, there is a possibility that we end up seeing unemployment going up, give or take a zero point 0.2 standard deviation relative to before. So there could be an uptick in unemployment to some small extent, but Jerome Powell is saying that it's not going to be too extreme. We had these reporters asking Jerome Powell, is there going to be a recession? Could the Fed cause a recession to bring down inflation? Jerome Powell's answer was that, look, so far they brought down inflation to a large extent compared to where it was in 2022. They made a lot of progress at doing that, and they did not cause a recession so far. The economy remains very solid, and he believes that they're on track to meet their goals, right? See a 2% PCE, to see the overall economy hold up, to see GDP not, dump too much. That is what he's saying so far. So in essence, Jerome Powell is saying that PCE should eventually hit 2% at that 2027 year. So that's about 2 years from now. Unemployment could spike up a little bit. The short term inflation numbers could go up. If you look at 2025, it might go up a little bit. But then things could also continue. Well, they should continue to go down by 2026 and 2027. So the Fed remains optimistic. That's the reason why the Fed is announcing more potential cuts than previously expected. And the market loved that so far. Now, I want to add that this is ambiguous because you could interpret Jerome Powell's words as bearish, such as the fact that there could be more inflationary fears, but then you could also be bullish because of the fact that he is confident that right now, we're not in a recession. We're basically avoiding it so far. That's what Jerome Powell implied. And there is uncertainty about the tariffs, but he's, like I said before, Jerome Powell is still optimistic that we're doing well. So that's a more positive interpretation. So it's up to the market to choose which way it wants to go. And so far, I'm going to be waiting for that. There are other things affecting the market, such as what's happening with the Ukraine and Russian ceasefire deal. There was big news that came out yesterday. We had Putin speaking with President Trump yesterday. Today, we had Zelensky speaking with Trump, and they're continuing to negotiate. Russia has lots of demands, so we'll see how that ends up going. But the reason I call this out is because if there's any news tomorrow, next week, this week, whenever it comes out that there is some kind of ceasefire deal, it's going to be huge. The stock market is going to make a very, very big move. And then on top of this, President Trump has said some important things. So I want to mention that he is not really commenting as much on tariffs right now. He's not trying to throw in more numbers. That's why the market is able to kind of rally without seeing a lot of fear. So even though Tesla's kind of flat here in this range, SPY has actually been on an uptrend. If you look at SPY, if you look at the QQQ, we're seeing the charts going higher. If you look at this, we're going higher on the charts because one of the reasons is Donald Trump is not inciting as much fear with his tariffs. Instead, he keeps on saying that get ready for April 2nd. April 2nd is going to be a huge day when the reciprocal tariffs come, and he might be waiting until that deadline to make bigger announcements. So that's what Donald Trump is doing. President Trump has a different plan. Anyways, the market is quite fearful right now. That's making up the majority of sentiment. Momentum is also at extreme fear. That's also causing a bit of a decline. So keep that in mind. Besides that, the put to call option ratio is dipping a bit. Then we have the VIX dipping. So we're not really seeing much of a change. There's still lots of fear. But with the VIX dipping, that's a good chance that that could help the market to some extent. Now, on top of this, I want to add that Nike and FedEx have earnings for tomorrow, and NIO has earnings on Friday, so we'll see what this leads to. But with that being said, we're going to be talking about some key levels. So what do I see from this point on? Honestly, guys, there's good news and there's bad news. I think that Tesla's getting very, very tight right here. You could draw out this support like this as well. We have support and resistance to watch for, kind of forming a wedge on Tesla. So if Tesla, just hypothetically, with these tariffs and with all these uncertainties, anything could happen. But I want to say that with FOMC, that's the main factor. And I think it's going to be affecting the market again for tomorrow because sometimes you get a reaction after FOMC and it continues into the next day. So tomorrow, I think the market will continue to react to this. Now, keep in mind for Thursday, we have initial jobless claims and very minor data, but let's talk about what's going to happen to Tesla. So the reaction to Jerome Powell's words will continue tomorrow. If the market decides to make a U-turn, we want to see Tesla lose this low here. So this low around 220, the 224s, if we end up losing that, then we could be dipping back down towards this low around 215. That's the more bearish case. That's going to be bad for Tesla if we end up getting that projection. So keep that in mind if this low breaks. However, as long as we end up holding this support. So as you guys can see, we had a low here, came up, made a higher low, and we're trying to slowly continue up like this. This is looking a little bit more bullish. So it all depends. If this low holds, we should be trying to go higher. If we lose this, we will be dipping a bit more. My gut feeling is that the market's going to try to go higher tomorrow looking at our setups. Tesla might try to get back above 237 if that breaks. We're looking for 244 as our target. If we break that, then we could go even higher for 250. If we reject it, we could turn back down. But my gut tells me 244 will likely be tested or even higher levels. So just give this some time. There's a very good, very good chance we try to go a little bit higher. I think the daily looks pretty good. It also depends on the news, but Tesla is building a little bit of strength here, and we could be looking to see if we could break out of this wedge. We could be looking for 244 if we hold above 237. So please keep that in mind. For other factors out there, we have SPY. Okay, SPY is looking quite good. I just wanted to say that as of right now, we are looking decent, especially as we're starting to see an inverse head and shoulders here. But let's actually break this down. So with this structure on SPY, okay, what is good is the fact that we have an inverse head and shoulders. If SPY and the QQQ are pumping, this could also help Tesla to some extent. If this pans out, you want to see us break 569. If that breaks, we're looking for 575. And then on the daily charts, if we end up breaking past 569, the 200 EMA, we're easily going for 575 again as well. So we'll just have to see how this goes, especially as time goes on. Now, the bearish case would be that, hey, what if we end up getting a rejection? We end up losing 559. If we lose that, then yes, this could be like a double top and a rejection, but that's not looking very probable because of the fact that before we were making lower highs and lower lows like this, right? We're not doing that anymore. As of right now, we established a low here. We're trying to make higher lows, and we may continue to do this as we try to go for this gap fill for that 575 target. So my bias is a little bit more in favor of upside. I'm 60% more bullish for the markets and 40% more bearish for the super short term for tomorrow and beyond. So I think that this inverse head and shoulders will likely pan out, and we're going to try to go higher for that 575 targets. I think there's a good chance we try to squeeze more. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. Essentially, I think that, with the Fed potentially cutting more than previously expected, and with the fact that Jerome Powell did not cause a big rug pull so far, we might try to go higher. We also have an inverse head and shoulders here on the QQQ. We have a left shoulder, a head, which is a double bottom, then like a right shoulder, which could be launching us higher. So just keep that in mind. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But with that being said, if we lose this low around 570 or 472, we could be dumping back down to about 468. If we break past 485, we're looking for an attempt to push for 490. So there's a double bottom inverse head and shoulders, and I think we could be pushing for basically 485 to 490. Keep that in mind. There's a good chance we do attempt to go higher. In my personal opinion, I think that with that structure that's developing, we're looking quite good. So just give this some time, especially as we progress. And we could be looking for 485 plus and eventually the 490s as time goes on. If we lose 473-ish, if we lose the support here, I will turn more bearish. As of right now, it looks like we look strong and we might be trying to break past 485. So we're favoring an upside move for 490. What else is interesting is the Russell looks strong here. I just don't want to see us lose 205. If we lose that, we're looking for a dip to 203 or below. Also, if we lose this low at 202, we're going to be turning bearish, so be careful at 205 and 202. As long as 205 holds still, we could continue to uptrend for essentially 210. I think there's a good chance we try to go higher off this inverse head and shoulders. So 210 plus could be coming. Right now, the Russell looks quite good. For ES, we have a left shoulder, head, and then a right shoulder. If we end up breaking and if we end up losing like the 56.90s, we're going to be looking for a dump back down. With this inverse head and shoulders, as long as we hold up, we could be looking for an attempt to get back up to about 5,800. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. There's a chance that we form a left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder. And this might try to continue to push for 5,800. I think there's a very, very good chance that's going to happen. So watch and see. For NQ is also looking quite decent. We have a potential inverse head and shoulders, like a double bottom, and I think there's a good chance this attempts to happen. So we have like a left shoulder, this is like our double bottom head, and this is like a right shoulder. If we lose this low, we could invalidate this, and this could be dipping. So if 19,600 breaks, it's going to be a bad sign. If we could hold above 20,000, I do expect us to push higher. There's a good chance we do try to do that looking at this setup. On Bitcoin, we're looking bullish, going for 88,000 or 87,800 to 88,000 to be more precise. If we lose 83,000, we could turn back down, but I think this is looking a bit more bullish. For Nvda, we look bullish. We have a nice looking inverse head and shoulders. If we manage to break and hold above 120, I'm looking for an attempt for 125. If we lose the low at 114, we could turn back down. But I think that this inverse head and shoulders has potential to pan out with a left shoulder, the head, and then the right shoulder as we're looking bullish, at least so far. Once again, for Tesla, we're looking pretty good. I like the setup so far. I want to see us get back above our key resistances, and I think that there's potential in this. Apple is looking quite good. I need to see us hold above 215. If that holds, 220 is likely coming. If we lose 215, we could turn back down, but so far we're looking bullish. Netflix is looking pretty good. We did call out the fact that we had this support where this yellow trend line is. I never touched this, guys. This is the same from yesterday. So it looks like it might try to ride this higher and slowly push up for the 980 to 1000 area. Unless we lose 934, we could turn back down to 925, but this is still looking bullish. For MSTR, we also have a double bottom like structure. As long as we don't lose 304, we could continue to push like this. So we have a potential double bottom here that could be forming. As long as we don't lose 282, we could continue to push for 323 and eventually back down towards the 330s. For Celsius, we're looking bullish. Nice accumulation structure right over here. So this could be going even higher. I just don't want to see us lose 30. As long as that holds, we could continue to push for 34. So just keep that in mind. For Supermicro, we're trying to hold this support here. We bounced many times. I think there's a good chance we try to continue to hold up as we try to go up for that 44 area. Let's make uptrend from here on out. For Palantir, we look quite good off this inverse head and shoulders. However, I just don't want to see us lose the support over here around this 82 area. As long as that holds, we're looking for an attempt to get closer to 90. On Rivian, I don't want to see us lose 11.14. As long as we hold that, we're looking for an attempt to get up to about the 12s. 12.14 could be coming. SoFi looks good. Inverse head and shoulders, as long as we don't end up losing 12.19. If 12.19 breaks, it's going to be dumping back down to this gap around 11.5. But if we hold that, we're going to likely continue to push for 13.5, which is the most likely possibility. More upside is looking very probable. AMD is looking good. I just don't want to see us lose 102. If we could hold, we're going to continue to push for 108, then eventually 110. Looks bullish off this double bottom. So watch this very closely. For ARM, we're looking for essentially this nice structure. I kind of like this. I just want to see us get back above 121.5. If that breaks, we're looking for that gap fill for 125. If we end up losing 114, we could turn back down. So it's kind of like an inverse head and shoulders to bounce even higher. For Coinbase, we have like a triple bottom here. As long as we don't lose 187, we're looking for an attempt for 197, then eventually the 200s, especially with this gap fill. So I think 197 is coming. As long as we don't lose 187, we're looking pretty good. On Amazon, there's a range. We like to bounce off 190. We like to reject off 200. As long as we could hold above 195, I'm favoring 200 plus. So I think there's a good chance we get up to 200. Meta is on a bit of a downtrend. I want to see us get back above 595. If that breaks, we're looking for a 603. If we end up losing support at 590 or 575, we could turn back down. I think we test 595 tomorrow, and we'll see if we break or not through it. Big test tomorrow. If it rejects, it's not going to be a good sign, so we'll see if it breaks. Microsoft needs to hold above 388. If that holds, we're looking for 396. Google also needs to try to hold above 169. I think we test that tomorrow. The 24.5 area could be coming for GameStop. AMC, as long as we're above 3.04, we're looking for 3.16. DJT, I want to see if we can break 21.3. That's going to be good if we break through that. The VIX is looking bearish. If we can't hold above 19.59, it's going to be a bearish sign. We'll see for confirmation, though. You never know. The 10-year is dipping as a result of the Fed potentially cutting more in the next 1 to 2 years. And the dollar is rejecting. We'll have to see if we could hold above 103.5. If not, it could reject and start dipping to the low 103s, which is bullish for the market. So my bias is a little bit more in favor of bulls looking at what we're seeing on the charts. But keep in mind, FOMC typically has 1 to 2 days of reaction. So with what Jerome Powell said, he might still be affecting the market tomorrow. Keep that in mind. So we'll see what the reaction happens to be. As of right now, the charts are looking more in favor of the bulls. So we'll see if that ends up being the case for tomorrow. With that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. Please have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll be back tomorrow with another upload before the market opens. Until then, I wish you all the best. Have a good night, guys. Maybe relax and rest after all this madness from the market. And then we'll be back fresh tomorrow to talk about what's happening with futures and Tesla and the others. So take care, guys. I appreciate you guys so much for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.